what's happened, if we go back to 1800, more than 95% of the population worked outside. They got a daily light dark exposure, which changed, of course, across the seasons. Now it's estimated that 2% of the population work in agriculture and fisheries. So let's say maybe 5, maximum 10% of the population are spending a lot of time outdoors, which means we've retreated inside. And so we've cut ourselves off from that vital element, which is the light dark cycle that regulates internal time. And we live in dim, dark places. And I would urge your listeners to download a lux meter, a light meter, onto their smartphone, because that's a great way of getting a sense of how much light there is outside versus inside. So shortly after dawn, environmental light is some 50 to 100 times brighter than the sorts of light we would experience inside. And as I said, it's that morning light that is very important for the regulation of the clock. So what type of light do we actually need? Well, the clock needs probably thousands of lux for a good half an hour to an hour. So the experiments that have been done have shown that 10,000 lux, which is the sort of light you'd see outside in the morning, um, for half an hour is a robust way to regulate the clock. Average sitting room light levels in the evening would be 90 to 100 lux or lower. So we're getting dim light inside. In an office, you might get 2 to 400 lux, but it's still much, much lower than the sorts of light you get outside. So we're now being exposed to a weak light dark cycle. And of course, since the 1950s, what we've been able to do with cheap, efficient light is invade the night. So we're invading the night, but that light is dim. And so what's happened is that we've, to some extent, detached ourselves from the light dark cycle, and we've invaded the night, and sleep has been the first victim. And we've thrown sleep away without appreciating its fundamental value and its fundamental importance. And those of us who remember the 80s will certainly remember people saying, "Oh, yeah, I've done another all nighter." And people sort of slap them on the back and say, "Oh, well done, fantastic, you've beaten sleep." Whereas now I think we're beginning to appreciate, no, 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 this is really bad. You don't want people coming into the workplace who have a weakness in their ability to process information, a failure to appreciate the social signals by other individuals, a lack in creativity, and a failure to multitask. So we're beginning to understand why sleep is so important and why you just can't throw it away as sort of an indulgence or treat it as an illness that needs a cure. So really from the 1950s onwards, because we can illuminate our spaces cheaply and safely, we've chosen to invade the night and sacrifice sleep. And so that's been the unremitting march of human society. But I am an optimist, of course, by nature, and I'm beginning to feel that there's a definite pullback against that attitude that absolutely was embedded in the 1980s.